But yes, my name is I go by my initials, F.A. Cole, and that's Francis Anne Marie Cole. I am originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and I underwent forceful female genital mutilation when I was 11 years of age. Nobody told us up to this day. No one told us, no one said anything to us. We just sat there in pain and shock. Just imagine, no anesthesia, nothing. So that night we went to bed, couldn't sleep because the pain was so much. Woke up the next morning, tried to pee. The cut, the wound was still fresh, it was still raw. And I tried to pee. Oh, the pain went up my spine and down and up. It was so excruciating. Still, nobody told us why that happened to us. I learned that from my sister that Papa later regretted it, but it was too late. You can't reverse it. It doesn't matter if you, as a survivor, you undergo you have the restorative surgery done. That's good. But that pain, that trauma, it stays with you for the rest of your life, especially if you were old enough to remember what happened to you. And so we went home and we sat on this chair that was nicely decorated. They told us we were going there to learn about womanhood, motherhood, but nobody talked to us about any of that. And I didn't care about womanhood and motherhood at age 11. Come on. And the sad part also about it, the money that people came, family members and friends came and gave us, my stepmother took it away from us. So not only were we tortured, but the gifts that we got, monetary gifts, they took those away from us too. And so while we were there, they told us that if we talked about what happened to us, our stomach will swell and we'll die. Because I was so hurt, I felt betrayed, I felt abandoned. The people who were supposed to protect me, my parents, they were the ones that allowed that to happen to me. So I didn't trust anybody. And at that time, I didn't care if I died or lived. And so when they told us if we talked about it, we'll die, I said, okay. And so when we went back to school, I spoke to one of my best friends. Her name is Violet. She now lives in England. I asked her, I said, hey, did you go through the Bondo Society? She said, no. I said, do you want to know what happened? And she said, yes. So I told her everything. And then I went home, waiting to see if my stomach would swell and if I'll die. But that did not happen. And that's when I realized it was all a lie. And so at age 11, I started talking about what happens at the Bondo Bush. And it just gave me some power that, you know what, these women lied to me. If I really was going to die, I would have died. So that's when I started talking. And then by the grace of God, I came to the US and I continued to share my story and realized that every time I talked about surviving FGM, some of the pain, it lessens the pain, it lessens the trauma, you know. Every time I talk about it, every time I share my story, every time I talk with another survivor, some form of healing takes place. And that's one of the reasons why I share my story. And then I also realized that other survivors were reaching out to me to say, thank you for speaking up because I can't talk about what happened to me. And we still have survivors who strongly believe that if they really talk about it, they'll die. And these are adult women, you know, and they still have that belief that they will die. So I keep telling them, you know, yeah, you may not have the courage to talk about what happened to you, but know that you've got a sister and you've got sisters out there. There are over 200 million survivors of female genital mutilation. The trauma doesn't end. And also, it makes us feel less of a woman. After you undergo FGM, you do not feel like a complete woman, because when God created you, you were whole and complete. And then they take that away from you. They didn't even give you the choice to say yes or no. They just tell you that this is what they're going to do to you. And you can't say no because you're a child. And there's nobody to fight for you. So that's why I would do anything to protect girls who are at risk of undergoing FGM, because I don't want them to grow up to be like this. And I encourage people to talk. You don't have to be a survivor to talk. I know people, women, men who are not survivors might say, well, if I go out there to talk, people might say, oh, this is not your culture. It's not a cultural practice. They hide behind tradition. It's not tradition. It's a form of control to control the woman's libido. And the sad part, the men for whom they're doing these, most of these men, especially from Sierra Leone, I've talked to a lot of men. They say they would never marry a woman who's gone through FGM. So then why are they doing it? And then it boils down to, it's a money-making industry. This is from the cutters. This is what they said. This is how they take care of their families. They know what they're doing is wrong, but they can't stop, because if they stop, they say, how would we take care of our families? We need money to take care of our families. I remember when we had the Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone for 4 years, they didn't have the Bondo Society. FGM was put on hold. So my question to them was, for 4 years you didn't do this. How did you survive? So why can't you stop? Well, we might stop if you people provide other ways for us to make money, other ways to get our income. It's the women that are doing it to girls, and these women themselves have gone through it. I remember, I believe it was in New York at some meeting, I don't know if it was at the UN. One lady spoke, and what she said makes perfect sense. Somebody said, well, if these women themselves are hurting, why do they keep doing it to the girls? And she said it's out of revenge. And I truly believe it's out of revenge. Because if sex is unpleasant for them, and then they see these young girls coming up and they say FGM curves, it puts an end to being promiscuity. It is not. It did the opposite in my case. And most of the other survivors that I've spoken to, that's the same thing they told me, because they go from one partner to the other looking for somebody to satisfy them sexually, not knowing that the root cause, it's because they underwent FGM. And so what they're really trying to do backfires. And so you have these girls, these women going from partner to partner. But for me, like I said, my silver lining in 2017, I had the restorative surgery, and I did it out of curiosity and also to boost up my self-esteem. Because once you've undergone FGM, I don't care. Somebody might say to you, it's good, but deep down, if they can trust you, they will tell you that they wish they had it. And so August 1st, 1984, in the capital city of Sierra Leone, that's Freetown. And I usually like to start off by letting people know that FGM is not a religious thing, because usually when people hear, some of the people with whom I've spoken, when they hear FGM, they say, oh, isn't that what the Muslims do to their women? It's not a religious thing, because my father was Catholic. My mom, who had nothing to do with me undergoing female genital mutilation, is Methodist. My mom also did not undergo female genital mutilation because she's from the Creole tribe of Sierra Leone. They do not practice that rubbish. But it was my stepmother, actually, who coerced my father to have him agree for us, my sister and I, my older sister and I, to undergo FGM. So it has nothing, FGM knows no, it doesn't recognize religion, it doesn't recognize socioeconomic status, none of that. It doesn't recognize, well, nationality, because it's not just in countries in Africa that's it's practiced. And I'm given this background because I don't know how many of you actually know about FGM and why it's practiced, the countries where it's practiced, and the different types of FGM. We may not have time to go over all of that, but you can use Google, you can research it. And it used to be 3 types of FGM. Now I believe there's 4 or 5 types of FGM. So I underwent type 2, but at the time, up until 2017, I thought it was type 1. And I found out in 2017 when I went for my restorative surgery with Dr. Bowers in California, but I'll talk about that later. So that's one of the silver linings in my story of being a survivor of FGM. So we were told by my stepmother and papa that we were going to be made into women. I was 11 at the time, and my sister was 13. So I hadn't even gone through puberty yet at age 11. And so they said they were my stepmother said, we will be taken to this place where we'll be made into women. And then when we come back, we will get lots and lots of presents. So everything they said after the lots and lots of present, it just went over my head, because as a child, when you hear present, you get excited. And later on, I spoke to my sister, we talked about it. She told me that our father actually asked our mom if it was okay, because he was not going to let us go through anything without her consent. My sister said my mom said that she didn't care. But when I confronted my mother, she said my dad never asked her. So I guess we'll never know, because Papa died over 10 years ago. Anyway, so on this fateful day, August 1st, 1984, I had just celebrated my 11th birthday. They told us to pack, me and my stepmother told us to pack a few items, clothing items, no panties. It still didn't register what was going to happen. Why shouldn't we take panties? So we packed our suitcase and we headed for the place is called Bayama. I don't know the interpretation for that, but when we got there, there were about half a dozen to a dozen women. I can't really remember. That were there waiting. I didn't know any of them, with the exception of, I believe, my stepmother's mom. She was there. And so when we got there, these women were singing, dancing. They had been drinking a lot. And that's the other thing. Before they perform this ritual, because that's what it is, depending on your country of birth, they drink a lot of alcohol and, moonshine, a Sierra Leone type of moonshine they had been drinking. And so they told us to strip. Nobody told us what was going to happen. We obeyed, because coming from where I come from, you don't question your elders. You just do what they tell you to do, right? And so they told us after that to sit. And there was this huge tree, because they took us to a secluded area. So we sat down under this tree, and they came and got my sister because she was older. She was the oldest. And so they told me, they gave me strict warnings. Do not look back. You do not want to look back. And everything about that, it's called the Bondo Society in Sierra Leone. Everything about it, you break any of these stupid made up rules, you die. And being a child, of course, you don't want to die. So you do everything they tell you to do. And so they told me, don't look back. If you look back, something bad will happen to you and you will die. So I didn't look back. And little did I know that they didn't want me to see what was happening to my sister. I might get some ideas to run away, but I didn't look back. And so when they were done with my sister, some of the women came for me. And the first thing they did was they blindfolded me, and then they tied my hands behind my back. Still did not register what was going to happen. I'm sorry. I tend to take a few breaks when I get to this part. And so after they tied my hands behind my back, they led me to what I call, and they call that in the book, the bed of death. So they laid me on the ground, and I believe it was two women on each side. Two women on my left, two women on my right. They spread my legs wide open, and they held my legs down like that, open and down. And then the woman who was the cutter sat on my chest. This woman was 3 times my size, maybe even 4 times my size. But I didn't know which one of them because I was blindfolded. And that's the thing. If this was supposed to be a joyous occasion, if this was a good thing, if this was actually positive, why would you blindfold me so I wouldn't know which of you did the cut? Well, actually amputated my clitoris? Because knowing me, I would have gone back, I would have done something, but I couldn't tell which one did the cutting. So she sat on me. I still did not register what was about to happen to me. My life was about to change drastically in just a few seconds. And I was not ready for that. And so she used the same razor she used on my sister. And as she held my clitoris, I began to fight. It still did not register. I just knew that something was wrong. Something was not right. Why is she doing this to me? Why is she touching me? And also being a survivor of child sexual molestation, I knew that that touch was not a friendly touch. And so I started to fight. And then she began to amputate the clitoris. And oh my gosh, the pain, I can't describe that pain. It's indescribable. But I remember pulling, I was screaming so loud. And the more I screamed, the more the women screamed. So in case anybody was around that area in the bushes, their shouting would drown my screams. All I was praying for was that my mom would come and rescue me. But I don't even think that she knew that it was happening to us at that time. And even if she knew about it, there's no way she would have been able to rescue me because she herself had not undergone FGM. And so, because it's a secret society, if you are not a member, you were not allowed into the bushes. So I screamed, but nobody came to my rescue. I felt betrayed at age 11 and decided to think, why would Papa pay? Because it wasn't done for free. These women were paid. I don't know how much my father paid, but he paid a lot of money to have me tortured for the rest of my life. And so I remember as she continued to amputate, I remember I pulled myself upward and I just beat her bum. And that's when I realized that she was naked also. I don't know why. And so after she was done amputating my clitoris, the pain, oh, that pain, I would never forget that pain. So they pulled me up and expected me to walk back to sit under the tree. And then I looked down and I was covered in blood. And I believe it was from that day that I had blood phobia. I couldn't walk. It was like I was walking on hot coals. So they led me back and I joined my sister under the tree and they continued to sing and dance and drink. And no one told us why they did what they did. Maybe if, especially here in the States, they should have a harsher punishment for doctors who do that. Put aside culture, put aside tradition, religion, whatever umbrella they want to hide under, and tell them it's plain and simple. Female genital mutilation is child abuse. It is. If if my kid was to show up to school with a bruise on their face, they'll interview that girl and they'll call the law enforcement. So why don't we do the same for female genital mutilation? Yeah, the scars are not out there, but if we really pay close attention, we would see them. We just have to know what to look for.
Well, thank you. And also, I was wondering, so a lot of the people that I like targeted for this event, they're interested in like going into the healthcare field and into public health. So, what are ways we can make our future patients, if they are FGM survivors, feel more comfortable coming to us and like talking to us? Like, what are some language and like words we can use to make them feel more comfortable and safe?
I'm so happy you brought that up because I remember when I moved to Maryland, because I went to school in New York, but when I moved to Maryland, I looked for a female OBGYN because I wanted to be comfortable. But she made me feel so bad. I remember the first time I went in, she was from India. She was younger. She's from India. And when she came in to talk to me, I was already on the bed. My legs were up in the stirrups. And the nurse was African American. And this woman looked, and she said, ugh, I see there's something wrong with the anatomy. Oh my God, don't say that. I already know something is wrong, and it's through no fault of my own. If I had a say in it, it would not have happened. And I just felt like I was mutilated all over again. And that's the story of many survivors with whom I've spoken. Our doctors or medical practitioners just need to know the language. They need to, but again, I don't blame them because it's not part of the curriculum when they go to medical school or whatever school they go to get their degrees. It's not part of it. So if it becomes part of it and they actually go through training, they get the training that they need so they'll know the kind of language to use. We don't want you to feel sorry for us. We don't want pity. We just want people to understand that what happened to us happened, and don't blame us. I have been blamed that, oh yeah, it's my fault that it happened to me. So it's my fault that I was also raped. It's my fault that I was sexually molested when I was only 6. So you told me it's my fault that, hey, it happened to you. Then what kind of message are we sending? So they just need to educate themselves because it's out there. Literature on FGM is out there. Just type it up. It is on the internet. There's good and there is bad literature out there, but educate yourself. Attend seminars. Reach out to the community that you serve. If you see that most of the women who come to the hospital are from countries where FGM is practiced, then talk to them, ask them questions. For me, I'm open, and that's why with Global Women Peace Foundation, we train law enforcement, and I've done that a lot. Train school nurses, and most of them have never even heard about FGM, and they always say, oh, thank you so much for talking to us. Just educate yourself and then know the language to use. Don't call it a barbaric practice. I know it is. It is. But I would never say that out there, because some of these survivors might actually get offended. So, but from one survivor to the other, I can say that to them. But when I go into the community to talk to the cutters, I will not use that language. So we just need to know what kind of language to use. Some survivors call it female circumcision. I would never call it that because I do not have a penis. I do not have a foreskin. My clitoris was amputated. It's female genital mutilation. So some people call it something else. And then just, make us feel comfortable. Like for me, when I lay there, my doctor now, my GYN now, she's also familiar. She's older, but she has some sense because she said, oh, I have a lot of women who've undergone FGM, so I know you can relax. She helps me relax. That's what we need. Good bedside manner, but not to have like one of a survivor went to see a doctor, male doctor, and she swore she would never go see an OBGYN again, which is really bad. The doctor, this was new to him, and he saw her, and it was just because her vagina was badly disfigured, and unfortunately there were doctors there doing the residency, so he called all of them in and paraded, called them to come take a look at this woman. She felt humiliated. She felt like it was the day that she underwent FGM all over again. So people like that do have no business, seeing people like me, but we just have to help educate ourselves and just use the right language. And don't pity us to them. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I don't want that. Say, wow, that really happened to you. Oh, I would love to hear about it if you don't mind. Oh my gosh, how are you? Stuff like that. I'm sorry. I just keep going on, but yeah.
Thank you for answering that question. My final question is, how are there any warning signs that someone has undergone FGM or they're going to go to get FGM done, since it's still a practice that happens in the US?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you've heard about vacation cutting when they take like, during the summer holiday because it's the longest from school. So that's when they take these girls out of the country. And these are girls who are first generation Americans. They were born here, but they're born to parents from practicing countries. And so they'll tell the girl, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, oh, you're going home for the first time to see Granny. She's all excited. And then she goes and they do it there. And then they tell them, they threaten you. If you tell anybody, you will die. What child wants to die? No one, right? And that's how also rapists have been able to just silence their victims. If you talk, we'll kill you. Same thing. And so if you are a teacher, when Dr. Bowers saw me and she told me it wasn't type 1 that was done to me, it was type 2, I got angry all over again. And type 2 is the amputation of the clitoris and the labia minora. Then she did my surgery and I'm fine. There's sensation down there. I've been reunited with my clitoris. There's sensation down there. And sex is a bit tolerable. And I advocate the surgery not because for sexual pleasure. And most of the women who've done it, who reached out to me, said they did it not because of sexual pleasure, but just so they can feel whole and complete as women. That's why we do the surgery. Most of us who've done it, that's why we did it. And so imagine if all the women and girls who've undergone FGM had access to that surgery, what a joyful day that would be. But until then, I'm just going to keep working to make sure that the younger generation does not end up like me. Meaning now, I might be in therapy for the rest of my life. I don't know. But I'm in therapy. And I thank God that I found someone and she does it for free. She doesn't charge the survivors that she cancels. So that's a great thing. And for me, like I said yesterday, my biggest pay with this advocacy work came a few years ago when I worked with the FBI to stop it was supposed to be a vacation cutting, this girl, and she was the age I was when I underwent FGM. So I spoke with the FBI, and they went to the airport and they were able to stop them from getting on the plane. And then a few months later, the mom tried again, but this time, thank God, the girl's name was already in the system. So she got flagged. And so she's still in the country. They haven't gone. So at least if it's just that one girl, I am happy. But there's so many. I believe it's 3,000 girls undergo FGM every single day. Even here in the US, it's happening underground. There are, I believe, 10 more states that still do not have laws criminalizing FGM. So if you're in those states, it would be great if you could call your legislators to put pressure on them to protect these girls. It's not about brown or black girls. It's about protecting children. It's about protecting girls. And then we just have to talk about it, know the right language to use. It doesn't matter that if you're not a survivor. I've been called so many names. I've also been called the white man's puppet because they say I work with these white people. I am a disgrace to my country, their tradition. It's not my tradition, not my culture. Anything that hurts children or anybody for that matter in the name of tradition, I'm not part of it. I've been called so many names. It's okay. I wear that as a badge of honor because I know I'm doing something. I would not stand by and let FGM happen to another girl. And then she grows up to be bitter, angry, have suicidal thoughts and all that because nobody stepped up to speak up for her. So I don't know if I've gone over 30 minutes, but I'll stop now and see if you've got any questions. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. If anyone has any questions, they can unmute their mic and ask. Do you know how we can prevent the medicalization of FGM?
What do you mean, like the people who do it in hospitals?
Yeah, like when they have, when some families will have a doctor or healthcare professional do the procedure.
The only way that can happen is educating members of that community, because I know parts of countries in Asia, that's how they do it, and they have a doctor do it. Places like where I come from, West Africa, East Africa, I don't know if it happens in the southern part of Africa, but yeah, the West and the East, they do it in bushes, no experience whatsoever, nothing. But yeah, it all boils down to education. We just have to keep sensitizing these parents, these communities, even the doctors. And the doctors that do it, they get paid, so they don't care. If I was to take my daughter and say, hey, can you do it? They know it's wrong, but the parents tell them in a way where they say, oh, it's part of our tradition. And they say when you undergo FGM, they're preparing you for marriage. And in some of these cultures, especially like in countries like Kenya, where they also have child marriage, if you haven't undergone FGM, your bride price is less than the girl who's undergone FGM. So it all boils down to education. And when we talk to these people, even though I am one of them, I have to know what language to use. That's the thing, because I don't want them to think that even for my own people, I'm going there. Oh, now you think because you live in America, you live in the white man's country, you can come here and talk to us about something that you are part of. And I tell them, I'm not part of this. It happened to me. I had no say in it. But can I ask you a question? Do you enjoy sex? And they said, was sex meant to be enjoyed? I say, well, yes, God created us to enjoy it, but if you've always been in pain, then it's not right. And that's why most of these men have multiple wives, because the women themselves are the ones who will go out there and look for a younger woman, because they do not even connect the two, that painful sexual intercourse is because of female genital mutilation. They do not put it. And so when we talk to them, the light bulb goes on. So that's why. But then, we just have to educate them. And when I go home, I talk to these girls in Sierra Leone. They are now rebelling, because, and I asked one question. I asked in the room, I said, how many of you are survivors of sexual violence? A few hands went up. And then I broke it down. I said, do you know that FGM is a form of sexual violence? They didn't know. And I explained it to them. And then I asked the question again. And 90% had their hands raised because 90% of them had undergone FGM. So we just have to educate ourselves and then educate the communities, educate our parents, educate the children, because when the children are the youth are educated, then they will go into these different communities and sensitize the grandmas, the great grandmas, you know, who the people who are doing this. But with the doctors, and you have this kid in your class, and you know that her parents are from not from here, from some country in Asia or Africa, and now I believe it's being practiced in South America. So you just have to, but I know it's a lot to put on the teachers, but if this child was somebody outgoing, she was always talkative in class, and you know, she'll just sit down and not even think about it. She'll get up, and she was not self-conscious. And then she goes on this summer holiday and comes back, and you realize that she's withdrawn. She doesn't play, she doesn't talk to any of the other children. She sits down, and maybe she always puts her hands between her legs, or when she sits down, she constantly pulls down on her uniform or her dress or something. Um, she's not her bubbly, lively, talkative self. And then maybe she might walk funny. That is, if it wasn't done right. And also, if she takes bathroom breaks, before maybe she'll be back in 10 minutes, and now maybe she doesn't come back until half an hour, something is wrong. Check her, talk to her. But the other thing is, she will never tell you that that was what was done to her, because they threatened her, they told her that, they brainwashed her that if you tell anybody about what happened, you will die. And then when they come to America, the mothers tell them, if you talk about what happened to you, they'll take you away from me, you'll end up in foster care, and you'll be treated badly. So they would never talk. But if the teacher or whomever was able to gain their trust, they will slowly open up and tell them what's going on. So those are the signs to look for. If it was a child that was always jolly and happy, and then all of a sudden they don't want to talk to anyone, and they take longer bathroom breaks, especially if it was type 3 infibulation that was done to them. Oh my gosh, it takes forever to pass one single urine. So those are the signs to look for.
Thank you so much, F.A. Cole. I really admire your strength and courage to come here and tell us your story. And we're actually right on time. So, do you mind telling us about this book and just giving us like a brief summary?
Oh yeah, Distant Sunrise is my first book, and it goes into details about FGM, the emotional, what's the word? Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Talks about the emotional stress, the spiritual aspect, how it affects you. FGM affects survivors spiritually, because where I come from, it's a highly demonic practice, and how to get back your strength, your power from the abuses. It doesn't matter, not just about FGM, but if you were physically abused, emotionally abused, to get back your power from them. Because until you take that power from the people who have abused you, you will forever be at their mercy. And the sad part of it all is they've moved on. They might not even be thinking about you, but you're still holding on to that. And it stops you from living the life that God created you to live. So I wrote that book to bring healing to myself and to share my story, to expose the practice of female genital mutilation, the Bondo Society in my country. I know in the book I talked about, because I talked to a friend of mine who said sex is in the mind. So whether a woman is cut or not, they may or may not have an orgasm. I've talked to women who did not undergo FGM but who have never had an orgasm. And is sex always painful? No, but penetration always, even with a surgery, penetration always hurts. And so that's the thing. And I just want people to know that it's out there, it's happening. On the book, you'll cry, you'll laugh, you'll cry and laugh, but I know it's a great book. So I just want to say thank you so much for getting a copy. Thank you so much.
Yes. So at the end, I will email everyone that has joined and a survey, and one of you will get the chance to win this wonderful book. And I have a separate copy that I have for myself, and I really like, how someone can transform their struggle into strength. So does anyone have any other questions to ask F.A. Cole? Miss F.
I have,
Oh, yeah.
sorry, I have a question about the Global Women Peace Foundation. I'm just wondering what types of resources they might have available for young physicians or public health workers or teachers that may want to educate themselves about some of the things that we've talked about today.
Oh, yes. So Global Women Peace Foundation, I don't know if you go to our website. Yeah, I forgot to talk about that. They were the ones that actually paid for my surgery, but then I was not on the board of directors. So if you go there, I believe we just did Miss Angela Peabody. She wrote a book for the curriculum to be used in the curriculum for, I think it's family life, because in Virginia we worked with Senator Black, and now FGM is going to be part of the curriculum for high school, I believe middle school and high school, but high school most definitely. So we have that, and we're also partnered with GW, George Washington University, and they have a toolkit, and it's on their website also. So you can go there. They have a toolkit for survivors, and they have also for physicians. So you can navigate to their website to get that. I believe you can read it. And also with Global Women Peace Foundation, we used to do trainings. We do trainings. Miss Angela Peabody and myself are the only two who go to these trainings. We've trained law enforcement, school nurses, some physicians, but we did it for for free. So if you ever want to know more, you can actually if I can give you my email, or you can just call Global Women Peace Foundation, and I'll tell Miss Angela Peabody to be on the lookout for a message from you. If you want to partner so that we can come and train physicians, we can do that for you. We just want to get the message out there and let people know what are the signs, because there was this woman who was in labor, and she underwent type 3 infibulation. And the doctors looked at her, they didn't know what to do. Everybody was panicking. But there was a woman there who was from an FGM practicing country. I don't know what part of Africa. And she said, oh yeah, they called her, she came. And she said, yeah, she went through FGM. And so they had to do an emergency C-section. Had that woman not been there, that woman and that mother and her baby would have died. So yeah, if you go to globalwomenpeacefoundation.org, we'll have all of that. And also GW, they have the toolkit, that one for survivors and another for medical practitioners. I hope that answered the question.
It does. That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Miss F.A. Cole, I was wondering if you can go over the types of FGM from type 1 to type 3.
Uh, type one, okay, so type one is, uh, oh God, we have clitoridectomy, we have infibulation. The other one is the one I don't, incision. That's type one. Type one is incision. So it's where they remove the hood of the clitoris and then they amputate the clitoris. So type two clitoridectomy is when they remove the hood, the clitoris, and the labia minora. And then type three is where they remove the hood of the clitoris, the labia minora, and the labia majora. So the inner and the outer lips, they remove everything and they just leave this big hole, this empty space. And then, as if that's not bad enough, they sew up. So sometimes after they remove all of that, they hold the legs of the victim survivors together like that so that scarring will occur. So they press it together. But if they do not do that, then what they'll do, they'll stitch the girl up and leave just a tiny hole. And type three is done mainly in countries in East Africa. And so when you undergo type three, and it's done also on babies. So like in the Gambia, it happens when the baby is about 8 days old, so they don't even remember. But then when they get married, they have to be de-infibulated. So they have to go to the hospital and get cut open, and then they expect to go home and have sex with their husbands that night. So yeah, those are the types: incision, clitoridectomy, and infibulation.
And in most of your speeches, I've heard you said that the least harmful type is no FGM at all.
Oh yes, yes, that's the thing. I've heard somebody say, the least severe type of FGM. Oh, and this is a survivor. She's first generation American, but she's from Asia. I don't know if she's from India or not. They practice what's called katna, I think. And she said, oh, with us, it's just a tiny nick. I mean, good for you. So, and she calls it female circumcision. I said, fine, but there's no such thing as a least severe FGM. Your experience may be different. Your type of trauma may be different, but do not downplay mine. You know, I know what I went through. It happened to me 37 years ago. I was 11. I'm 48 now, and I remember it as if it just happened a few seconds ago. So yes, the least severe type of FGM is FGM that has not been done.
Thank you so much, F.A. Cole, for coming out and telling us about your story. If anyone else is interested in Global Peace Foundation and the AHA Foundation, which I'm a part of, I can send everyone more resources. You'll probably get that email in the next week. And F.A. Cole, I don't know if you got the chance to see the chat, but
No, not yet. I haven't. I don't even know how to get there now.
So I know you're on your phone. So I think if you click on, there's something that should say chat with the text message icon. If you press on it,
yeah, I guess if somebody sends another message, I can click on it and I'll be able to see
okay.
it. But yeah.
Somebody sent a message.
Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And if anybody wants to follow my work, it's ethical everywhere. And I have my videos on YouTube that I did after I underwent the restorative surgery. I am a big advocate for the surgery. So if you just want to see my 30 days of vlogging that God told me to do, because at the time I didn't know why, but now I know a lot of women have reached out, and I'm so happy that some of these women are gaining their confidence again as women after the surgery. So you can look it up at Ethical on YouTube, and you can like the page if you want.
Well, thank you everyone for coming to this event, and thank you FA Cole for speaking at this event. Keep an eye out on your email. You'll receive a link today at the end of today for the link to the survey, and you will receive some information about both of the foundations that we are a part of. And just if you want to join either one of them, we can also send out links for that as well. Thank you everyone so much for coming.
Thank you. Have a good night.